The WNBA is absolutely losing their minds right now. CaitlinClark's biography just hit #1 on Amazon's bestseller list. And the revelations inside are making league officials panic harder than they did during her rookie season. This book is exposing everything the league tried to hide about their complete incompetence. The fallout is going to be spectacular. How long do you think it'll take before the WNBA tries to discredit this book or attack the author? Drop your predictions in the comments below. CaitlinClark is way more important to the WNBA than Tiger Woods was to men's golf, even though he was huge. And to then see this negativity, like why? And what should have been done? I looked seriously at the leadership of the WNBA, and how could you not be prepared for this moment? You've seen it happening in the Big Ten. You've seen it in Iowa. You see these TV ratings. So here we are, folks, watching the WNBA scramble like cockroaches when someone turns on the lights. Christine Brennan's book, Her Game, CaitlinClark and the Revolution in Women's Sports, just became the #1 bestseller on Amazon. And let me tell you, the league executives are probably having emergency meetings right about now, trying to figure out how to do damage control. Is filling in for me. So, I've been looking forward to this all week. Christine Brennan is one of the best sports writers in the country, has been for a long time, and she has a new book out about CaitlinClark. It's available for pre-order now. This isn't just any book either. This is written by Christine Brennan, a veteran sports journalist who's been covering women's basketball longer than most of these current players have been alive. She's not some random blogger or social media personality looking for clicks. This woman has been in the trenches of women's sports journalism for decades, which makes her revelations about the league's incompetence even more damning to shake the ground of the WNBA. She's been around for a very long time, and she knows the inner and outer workings of this league. Christine Brennan let it be known in multiple interviews that the WNBA was not ready for a superstar like CaitlinClark. The fact that this book shot straight to #1 tells you everything you need to know about public interest in the real story behind CaitlinClark's treatment. People aren't buying this book because they love feel-good sports stories. They're buying it because they want the truth about what really happened during Clark's transition to professional basketball. And boy, are they getting it. Let's talk about the bombshell revelation that's got everyone talking. Brennan reveals that the day after Clark declared for the WNBA draft, she called a top league official to gauge their understanding of what was coming. The official's response: they compared Clark's potential impact to Maya Moore's arrival in the league. Maya Moore, can you believe that? Declared for the 2024 WNBA draft. USA Today sports columnist Christine Brennan made a phone call to a top official in the WNBA. Quote, "Do you know how big this is?" Brennan asked. That official said Clark's arrival was the biggest thing to happen to the WNBA since Mayor Moore came into the league. Folks, Christine Brennan knew that answer right there was like, oh crap. They have no idea what's fixing to happen. And it sounds like from this article, now don't get me wrong, Maya Moore was a talented player and deserves respect for her accomplishments. But comparing Clark's mainstream appeal to Maya Moore is like comparing a firecracker to a nuclear bomb. Moore was beloved within basketball circles. Sure, but outside of hardcore women's basketball fans, she was virtually unknown to the general public. Brennan knew immediately that the league had absolutely no clue what they were dealing with. Here's a second-year player who was already breaking viewership records in college, selling out arenas wherever she played and generating more buzz than the entire WNBA had seen in years. And the league's top brass thought this was going to be just another talented rookie joining the ranks. Answered, what? Wait, what? Brennan was shocked. Maya Moore, a Hall of Famer, was called, quote, the greatest winner in the history of women's basketball by Sports Illustrated in 2017. She was talented, beloved superstar in the league, and she deserved all the attention. But outside the league, Moore went virtually unnoticed. So, Christine Brennan knew CaitlinClark was not going to go unnoticed at all. Clark. The level of institutional blindness this reveals is staggering. These are supposed to be the people running a professional sports league, making strategic decisions about marketing, scheduling, and player development. Yet, they couldn't recognize the most obvious marketing goldmine in the history of women's sports when it was staring them in the face. What makes this even more infuriating is that it wasn't like Clark's popularity came out of nowhere. She had been building this massive following for years at Iowa. The writing was on the wall in 10-foot-tall neon letters. But somehow the WNBA's leadership was reading with their eyes closed, watching from home like everybody else. And I think, guys, that actually helped me understand as a journalist the fascination, because I've covered a lot over my career and been very fortunate to be at Wimbledon's and in Super Bowls and Tiger Woods, and you name it, I've covered it. And I'm so lucky to have done that. And I found myself fascinated, like, who is this? And I'm getting text messages from guys who would never have watched a second of women's basketball. Good guys, they want their daughters to play sports. I mean, good people, but just and they're texting, "Are you there? I'm watching. Are you seeing this performance?" And that told me something, that I actually was very helpful to be at home watching it versus being on press row talking to a bunch of other journalists. That like, okay, there's something going on in the country here, and it's everyone's fascinated, and people are standing in line for hours in the cold around the Big Ten, this barn-storming tour, and it's all about a basketball player who happens to be a woman. Brennan's book exposes how this fundamental misunderstanding led to a cascade of missed opportunities and botched decisions. The league's marketing strategy was completely wrong from day one. Instead of building their entire promotional campaign around their new superstar, they treated her like just another draft pick who needed to earn her stripes. Remember that commercial the league ran where they had some random employee introducing fans to the WNBA? That should have been Clark from the very beginning. She should have been on every piece of promotional material, every advertisement, every social media campaign. Instead, the league acted like they were doing her a favor by letting her play in their precious little club. The book reveals that the Indianafever weren't even prepared for the crowds that would show up. When Clark had her first preseason game, security staff were shocked to see fans waiting outside 2 hours before doors open. 2 hours for a preseason WNBA game. The parking garages were jammed like it was a Pacers playoff game. 14,000 people showed up for that preseason game, and the venue staff had never seen anything like it. The guy working the parking garage said he'd only seen crowds like that for major Pacers games, not Fever games. They literally didn't have the infrastructure in place to handle the Clark effect, despite having months to prepare. This wasn't just poor planning. It was willful ignorance. The league had access to the same data everyone else did. They could see Clark's college attendance figures, her television ratings, her social media following. But they chose to ignore all of it and pretend this was going to be business as usual. The thing I don't get, Christine, is that in the case of Tiger and in the case of Jordan, the other players in the league around them, in Tiger's case of PGA Tour, realized that a rising tide raises all boats and were incredibly supportive of Tiger and Jordan. With Caitlin, it seems like for whatever reason, she's polarizing, like she's been hit with more flagrant fouls than any player ever this year. They tried to come at you when you were writing a story and said, "Don't ask questions about why people don't like CaitlinClark." But I'm going to ask you, Christine, why is she polarizing in your opinion? Why do people not embrace the phenomenon that is CaitlinClark? It's one of the big points in the book. I deal with all of this in my research and reporting on because I was perplexed as well. I mean, this is the greatest moment ever for the WNBA. We wish it happened sooner. Of course, we wish it happened sooner. There were amazing players who, as you know, Ramona, both you guys know, were toiling in obscurity. The male-dominated mainstream, sports media, ignoring them. The financial implications of this incompetence are mind-blowing. The book references Dr. Ryan Brewer's analysis of Clark's economic impact, and the numbers were so staggering that he thought he'd made a mistake. He ran the calculations multiple times because the results seemed too good to be true. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact from one player. hotel bookings, restaurant sales, merchandise revenue, television advertising rates. Clark's presence affected every aspect of the women's basketball economy, and the league almost fumbled this opportunity because they couldn't see past their own limited expectations. The book also exposes the cultural problems within the league that made this disaster inevitable. There's apparently a mentality among some WNBA officials and players that mainstream success somehow compromises the league's authenticity. It's the most backward thinking imaginable for a professional sports organization. Brennan interviewed sociologist Harry Edwards, who pointed out that the league should have held seminars for existing players to prepare them for Clark's arrival and the tension it would bring. Instead of helping players understand how Clark's popularity would benefit everyone, the league just threw her into the lion's den and hoped for the best. This is where the book gets really interesting from a psychological perspective. Edwards suggested that the league could have explained to players that Clark's success would raise all boats: better television contracts, higher salaries, more sponsorship opportunities, increased visibility for everyone. Instead, many players seem to view her popularity as a zero, some game where her success meant less for them. The racial dynamics that Brennan explores are particularly sensitive but important. She doesn't shy away from the fact that Clark's fan base includes many people who hadn't previously followed women's basketball. And some of these new fans might not align with the political views of existing players and league officials. The book suggests that the league should have prepared for this cultural clash instead of pretending it wouldn't happen. When you suddenly have hundreds of thousands of new fans with different perspectives engaging with your product, that's going to create some friction. Smart leadership would have anticipated this and developed strategies to manage it constructively. Instead, the league seemed to be caught off guard by every aspect of the Clark phenomenon. They weren't prepared for the crowds. They weren't prepared for the media attention. They weren't prepared for the financial windfall. And they definitely weren't prepared for the cultural implications. The book's commercial success is sending shock waves through the WNBA because it's exposing their incompetence to a mainstream audience. This isn't just basketball insiders reading about league politics. This is regular people learning about how badly the WNBA mismanaged their biggest opportunity in franchise history. The timing of this book's release is particularly damaging for the league. Clark is now in her second season and continuing to break records and drive viewership. Every game she plays that draws massive audiences serves as a reminder of what the league almost threw away through their own stupidity. The international implications of Brennan's revelations are also significant. Women's basketball is growing globally, and the WNBA had a chance to position itself as the undisputed leader of that movement. Clark's appeal wasn't just domestic. She was drawing international attention to American women's basketball. But the league's dysfunction became part of the story instead of Clark's excellence.